Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this show. News summary from Moscow program. Today is, of course, 20th January. Now it's 12 p.m. Moscow time, and as always, I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments. And I hope you'll like the video. You will find it informative and useful. In that case, please click that like button, leave some commentary. During the stream, after stream will be helpful to deal with extremely aggressive algorithm. And I remind you, my channel is in shadow ban for understandable reasons. This criminal mass murderer, Western ruling class, and their puppets that are in charge of these IT companies don't want people to hear alternative points of view. So your help might be crucial to deal with this situation. Also, dear friends, if you appreciate my work, having the opportunity to take a look at news updates, daily news updates from Moscow, from Russia, and pro-Russian point of view, please consider to support my work. Because I'm gonna be real, man. Temptation is quite high to drop this project and go find a job and make like twice, three times more actually, while maintaining my updates, daily updates on Patreon and Boosty. I don't really need YouTube or Rumble channels, to be honest. It's just a headache, more like. So yes, if community appreciates my work, will be appreciated from my side if I will get a little more support, right, to stay focused on this project. Only reason I'm still making this daily stuff is Anna's opposition, because she's she demands from me to stay on this project because she sees that I'm happy while working in news segment, right? But nevertheless, life has its own rules, by the way, and I have my obligations before family first and foremost, right? So, okay, in case community members would like to support her, under this video in description box, there is links to support platforms. Everyone knows about it. So, yeah, that's been said. Let's go through some news now, and well, I will start with this update from RIA Novosti, which is based on Defense Ministry's report that overnight Russian air defense systems intercepted 32 drones that were launched by Kiev regime with the assistance of NATO to strike deep into Russian territory. I can give you details of this attempt, yet another attempt to strike deep into Russia. And so Russian fighters shot down 9 drones over the Bryansk region and Crimea, 3 in Voronezh region, 2 each in Belgorod, Kursk, Volgograd, Astrakhan, and Samara regions, and another one in Smolensk region, European part of the Russian Federation. Focus usually is on the southern regions of Russia. No reports at this point about casualties or more or less significant damage, but what we know is that in response to attacks by the regime, Russian troops are striking exclusively at the military facilities, and as Defense Ministry is reporting, and their Ukrainian military-industrial complex enterprises with their high precision air, sea, and land-based weapons, as well as drones. And as a result of these Russian strikes, by the way, there was a massive blackout again in Kiev, and still is in place. Left bank of Dnieper River in Kiev is, according to reports, completely off the grid, and the energy collapse is further escalating on a Kiev-controlled territory. This morning, on some of the sources, I read that about 7,000 buildings in Kiev are not just off their grid, but also off their heating, which means potentially due to freezing weather that pipes gonna burst in many areas, so it's gonna be extremely difficult for the Kiev regime to basically restore heating of these buildings. And once again, question rises about civilians in the city. And as I have said for many months now, and nowadays even mayor of Kiev is calling its fellow residents of Kiev, will be best decision on their part to flee the city of Kiev, also other cities on the Kiev control territory, to avoid their unnecessary hardship that they will face due to criminal activity of their own government and their Western backers. And the best way for them to avoid this unnecessary hardship is, of course, to move to Europe and demand from European regimes provide them with literally everything they need. Because Western countries are 100% responsible for a tragedy that had happened in the Russian world, in Ukraine, to be precise in this particular case. So let the Western countries pay for everything, right, and provide their Ukrainian refugees with everything, because there would be no Ukrainian refugees and there would be no hardship that these people are facing if not this proxy war that Western ruling class launched against Russia and does as much as it can to prolong this proxy war. And on this matter, dear friends, we had a report this morning, and Vzglyad newspaper reported that U.S. Navy's P-8A Poseidon reconnaissance aircraft was spotted near Sochi. And you tell me, dear friends, what does this report means? Of course, it means that U.S. militaries were monitoring the Russian territory, and most likely they will provide their intelligence data to their proxies in Kiev to conduct strikes in direction of southern regions of the Russian Federation, potentially also in direction of Sochi itself. So as I said, Western ruling class is 100% responsible for this tragedy that is happening and has to pay for everything. Meanwhile, as I already mentioned, your friends, the left bank of the Kiev is without electricity. Social infrastructure facilities are switching to autonomous power supplies. This was stated by Mayor of Kiev, Klitschko, and yet again, on several occasions, he already called the residents of Kiev to flee the city if they can. And yesterday, I did read on one of the sources that evacuation has actually begun from the Kiev. Evacuation, when residents are actually fleeing this city, it's not mandatory evacuation yet, but maybe mandatory evacuation will be necessary too. Let's monitor the situation. Also, when it comes to these Russian retaliatory strikes, recently, I remind you, dear friends, that recently Energy Minister of Kiev regime stated that all power plants on the Kiev control territory have been struck and either completely destroyed or significantly damaged, which is definitely not true. Many power plants, many facilities in energy infrastructure were targeted, but not the main ones. And main ones are nuclear power plants that Kiev regime is operating, either in the western parts of this former Soviet Republic. And lately, speculations began on the internet that Russian armed forces are allegedly planning to take out transformers that are servicing these nuclear power plants, basically transformers that are delivering electricity generated by these nuclear power plants to the grid, right? And I have read this information on many sources. Obviously, I cannot know for sure if Russian militaries are actually planning to take out infrastructure that links nuclear power plants to the grid. Could be case, but what I what I'm 100% sure is that in no circumstances Russian militaries will strike nuclear power plants themselves, right? So this is also something to keep in mind. We are dealing with a terrorist regime in Kiev. We are dealing with the terrorist regimes in Europe, and they might come up with some false flag operations, right? They might target actually nuclear power plants and then blame Russia. So if anything like that happened, if in upcoming days we'll hear that, well, some drone struck a nuclear power plant in Western Ukraine or something like that, we know that it's a false flag operation orchestrated by NATO terrorist regimes and their proxy terrorist regime in Kiev. Something to just pay attention to, I think. Meanwhile, on the ground, of course, Russian forces continue advancement and the improvement of their positions. Many media outlets reported yesterday afternoon, and I made a shorts video about it, that Russian troops liberated Pavlovka in the Zaporozhye region and Novopavlovka in the Donetsk People's Republic. Let me show you on the map location of these settlements. Pavlovka is located on the western part of Zaporozhye sector, and Novopavlovka is on the western side of Konstantinovka. So this is a Pavlovka settlement that you see right now on your screen. Let me make screen a little bigger, by the way, so it will be easier to see the area. So this is a Pavlovka settlement, relatively small village, but very important right now, because take a look at the location of either Pavlovka or the Orekhov, last major stronghold of Kiev regime in Zaporozhye, in the central part of Zaporozhye sector. Russian troops clearly are, in my personal opinion, moving towards cutting main supply and support line of Orekhov garrison that goes through Yurkovka, Tavricheskaya settlements. These are this highway here, right? And also simultaneously, I expect further advances of the Russian armed forces from eastern side, right? And I have said a couple of weeks ago already that there is a probability, in my personal opinion, that Russian troops will conduct pincer operation from west and from east to encircle basically Orekhov settlement and all the surrounding villages, right? And force local garrisons to either flee or to lay down arms and surrender. And they're based on developments on the ground. Seems like that's exactly what is happening. Also, when it comes to Zaporozhye region, it is, I think, important to notice that Russian DRGs have been spotted some 10, 15 kilometers away from Zaporozhye itself, according to reports that I see in the Russian segment of internet. And forward positions of the Russian militaries right now is about 17, 20 kilometers away from Zaporozhye city, which is, of course, an administrative center in the Zaporozhye region. And well, 17, 20 kilometers, as you know, it's nothing for modern drones, right? Even FPV drones can reach Zaporozhye without any issues. Fiber guided drones, obviously, first of all, if ordinary FPV drones can be suppressed by radio electronic warfare, then fiber guided drones are immune to that, right? And soon we're going to start seeing most likely videos of Russian drones hunting down hostile militaries and their equipment in Zaporozhye city itself. And if you take a look at the map, dear friends, you can see that main body of the city is located, almost entire city, by the way, is located on the left bank of the Dnieper River, which makes it extremely difficult for a Kiev regime to organize long-standing defense lines here. Once Russian troops will reach Zaporozhye, enter the Zaporozhye basically, and encircle, I guess it would not take much too long before local garrison will collapse. And let me show you Novopavlovka settlement, another one that was liberated in past 24 hours and was confirmed as a liberated by Defense Ministry of the Russia. This is Novopavlovka settlement that you see on your screen right now. This village here, and its location is right on the western side from Konstantinovka, one of the last major strongholds of Kiev regime in DPR, Donetsk People's Republic. And when it comes to Konstantinovka itself, Russian troops are advancing, already are conducting clearing operations inside the city. Some reports even suggest that some 50% of Konstantinovka is under Russian control. I think this might not necessarily be 100% correct claim, but Russian troops are inside the city. No one is denying that. Russian troops are advancing from northern side, from eastern side, and southern side. And according to latest reports, by the way, entire southern part, southern outskirts of Konstantinovka, including Libambik Reservoir and surrounding areas, are under complete Russian control now. This map is a little late in updating their map, but that's what I have seen on other sources. So progress of the Russian armed forces continues, of course. Initiative is in Russian hands all along the front line, and in no circumstances Kiev regime and its NATO backers will be able to turn the tide. Just not happening, not possible, period. Let's continue with some other news. And Lavrov, Foreign Minister of Russian Federation, is having press conference, by the way, right now as we speak. And I think after this live stream, maybe I will devote a separate video to this press conference because I want to. I can share some of his statements right now, but I guess it will be better if I give you full picture, full understanding of this press conference and what Lavrov's statements were. So let's see if I manage. By the way, shortly after this live stream, I'll try to make like short video, 10-15 minute video devoted exclusively to this press conference. I have already seen some quite interesting statements that Lavrov made during this press conference, but I myself want to see full press conference first. And when it comes to this proxy war that West is waging against Russia, by the way, you all understand that for many influential forces in the West, this proxy war become a unique opportunity to enrich themselves tremendously. Corruption is reaching unbelievable scales inside the Kiev-controlled territory, and I have seen this quite interesting report on one of the biggest Russian Telegram channels, Kirill Fyodorov Vayna Istoria Oruzhia, which is reporting about corruption moments when between Kiev regime and the French leadership, political leadership, military leadership, when agreement was signed about Rafale fighter jets that Kiev regime purchased in France. Let me give you some details on that. According to media reports, this channel is reporting NABU anti-corruption, Western-controlled anti-corruption element, or US-controlled anti-corruption element in Kiev-controlled territory, uncovered a multi-billion-dollar corruption scheme surrounding the contract for the purchase of 100 French Rafale fighter jets. In NABU, investigators found out that a number of high-ranking Ukrainian and French officials and military personnel embezzled 2 billion euros. 2 billion euros, by the way, not 2 euros, not 20 euros, not 20,000 euros or 2 million euros, 2 billion euros. Intended to pay for 100 Rafale fighter jets and also plan to launder and transfer to offshore accounts the remaining amount that Ukraine was supposed to pay France for the fighter jets under the contract. According to various estimates, this amount ranges from 15 to 30 billion euros. This is an unbelievable scandal, by the way. It should be, right? All the Western and French, in this particular case, media outlets had to talk about it, right? But did you hear anything on this subject from the Western media? So all this contract about 100 French Rafales were just scam, right? Scam. Kiev regime would take money from Europe, right? Formally, they will purchase planes, and then they will move not just 2 billion, but entire freaking sum in some offshores, right? Everyone understands that Kiev regime not gonna get no Rafale planes, by the way, you know. And in Russian there is a say, "Война все спишет." War will dismiss everything. Rough translation. And I guess these corrupt elements from Kiev regime and the French leadership, political, military leadership, were hoping for that exactly. That just no one will dig in and no one will search for this money. Billions and billions of euros of European taxpayers, right? Unbelievable. The data was obtained using a listening device in Andrei Yermak's car. Andrei Yermak, until recently, was head of presidential office in Ukraine, and he was tapped, right, by NABU, as we all know by now. It turned out that Yermak met several times with the chief of staff of the French army, Admiral Franquis Javier Pulderman. During these meetings, which took place in Yermak's car in the presence of a driver and the interpreter, they discussed the removal of cash from Ukraine and its distribution to offshore accounts. I mean, this is big, man, right? And everything is on tape, according to this report. Among the participants in the corruption scheme are Andrei Yermak himself, Rustem Umerov, former defense minister and current one of the top negotiators of the Kiev regime, and also since recently informant of the FBI, right? So Umerov was involved also. Francos Javier Pulderman, this French high-ranking military, also Fabien Mandon, and individuals who were referred to in their conversation as supreme, which most likely refers to Zelensky and Macron. According to NABU, 2 billion euros have already been transferred from Ukraine as a part of their corruption scheme. So, I mean, recently there was a massive scandal, isn't it, on the Kiev-controlled territory about energy sector and 100 million that was stolen. And I said straight away, by the way, if fight was actually serious against corruption, then reports will be about billions, tens of billions. And maybe some members of our community were skeptical, maybe about it. Maybe some members of our community were thinking that I'm exaggerating something, but no, man, I'm not exaggerating nothing. Western countries allocated approximately $500 billion for this war, for this proxy war that they are waging against Russia. Significant volume went for weapons, formally, and enriched these corrupt groups in the West and also on Kiev-controlled territory. Significant volume went as a cash, right? And I remind you, it's the Western taxpayers that are paying salaries on Kiev-controlled territory to everybody, right? That works for Kiev regime. And that is hundreds of thousands of individuals, millions of individuals actually, right? And also it's the Western taxpayers that are paying pensions for people in the Kiev-controlled territory. Just saying, right? So it's clearly tens of billions, right? Tens of billions that was stolen during this financial tsunami that Kiev regime enjoyed, right, in past 3-4 years. Yet again, let's see if there will be any continuation of this story. But it's a massive scandal. Nothing new in regards to corruption being involved. Whenever there is a bigger arms deals signed, right? Western companies are constantly using corrupt corrupt schemes, right, to sell their weapons, right? It's a well-known, historically accurate fact, right? But I mean, come on, man. Entire contract was a scam, and they were planning to steal freaking 30 billion, up to 30 billion euros, just on these Rafales, man. This is crazy, right? Just something to think about, you know. Meanwhile, there are of course other topics too that deserve, I guess, our attention. Media reports that Trump allegedly avoids meeting with Zelensky in Davos. U.S. President Donald Trump is avoiding contacts with Vladimir Zelensky on the sidelines of Davos Forum. Political reports citing sources, according to Republican foreign policy expert, Zelensky really wants a personal meeting, and reluctance to hold it comes from the White House. Article said the Kyiv regime's leader believes the benefits of engaging with Trump outweigh the potential costs, and if he does not engage with the American leader, others will. The article notes at the same time, Trump recently stated that Russia is ready to conclude a peace deal, while the head of Kyiv regime is delaying their process. And it's not just whenever talk is about Zelensky, we all understand that Zelensky is a puppet. In reality, it's a Western ruling class. It's globalists, by the way, right? It's a globalists that are actually in charge of almost everything on a Kyiv-controlled territory, including this proxy regime that they have in Ukrainian capital. So, well, that's the report from Politico that Ria Novosti highlighted. Well, in Davos, there is a World Economic Forum that is ongoing right now. It started, I believe, yesterday and will last until like 21st of January, correct? So it's going to be today and tomorrow. And Trump is already on his way to Davos, I believe, and we will see if he will have a meeting with Zelensky or not. But most likely, a U.S. delegation going to be more focused on some other stuff. I mean, Trump is quite excited to establish control over the Greenlander. Trump is quite excited with this fight that he's engaged with European elites, and yeah, probably that's going to be the topic that will make most of the headlines. Although who knows, maybe he will find out like 5-10 minutes to exchange hellos with Zelensky. We will see. Meanwhile, RT is reporting that Ukrainian MPs are ready to renounce claim to Donbass, according to the WEF. So Ukrainian MPs are ready to renounce Kiev's claim to Donbass in order to achieve peace with Russia. A German outlet, Die Welt, has claimed, citing high-ranking lawmaker. The report claims aimed at accelerated advances by Russian forces along most of the front line. Moscow said last week that 8 settlements and a total of 300 square kilometers has been liberated in the first 2 weeks of January alone. Die Welt's correspondent in Ukraine, Stefan Schwarzkopf, said live on air on Saturday that an extremely influential parliamentarian told him that the deteriorating situation has made many Ukrainian MPs change their stance on territorial concessions to Moscow. According to Schwarzkopf, his interlocutor acknowledged that yes, and this is quote, yes, sir, we have to make a compromise, even if it's extremely painful, and yes, sir, we have to give up Donbass. The MP noted that she and her colleagues believe a ceasefire is needed at any cost, the correspondent said, and we have a hint here, she, right? So it's a female that this Die Welt correspondent spoke with, or at least one of their MPs are the female, influential one, and I wonder who that is. Maybe Yulia Tymoshenko, that was hit by Nabu just recently, right? And maybe that attack on Tymoshenko sort of was a message for her from Washington to start pushing the narratives that Washington wants to hear from Kiev. And well, straight away we have this report from the WEF, right? That powerful, influential MPs in Ukraine are ready to discuss the topic and acknowledging that, yeah, they have to give up the Donbass. And really, if they would not withdraw their forces, Russian militaries will force them to do so anyways. But you know what is unfortunate, most unfortunate in this particular case, that globalists not gonna allow this to happen, by the way. Let's not underestimate power and influence of the globalists. And London, to be more specific, right? London is, of course, capital of globalists, I will say. Not the Brussels, but London, I believe, British ruling class, British aristocracy, ruling class, political class, financial elites are the main force behind the globalism, right? And London will not allow any sort of actual de-escalation to take place because they are all about prolongation of this proxy war as much as possible. And if they find it necessary, once British elites will see that, well, Ukraine is no longer able to push their geopolitical agenda, London will go ahead with sacrificing others, right? But they will not stop. If anybody thinks that without being forced to acknowledge objective reality, globalists will de-escalate or retreat, no, man, not happening, right? So even though we all want to see end of this tragedy, unfortunately, there is no indicators that globalists, this evil force, and their allies have any intention to do so. And well, nowadays we also observing this sort of a confrontation between American ruling class and European ruling class, right? And interesting reports are emerging. Interesting reports are emerging that allegedly globalist control regimes in Europe are considering now to basically build up a new military alliance outside of NATO. And allegedly, this alliance will be based on the so-called coalition of willing that is led by very same London, by the way. You guessed it correctly. London. Paris tries to play some role there, but of course, leading force in that coalition of willing is also London. And well, already number of media outlet, number of sources are openly discussing that yes, this topic of a new military alliance may become a major topic of discussion between coalition members of the coalition of willing, because they find it impossible to further rely on US or to use and abuse US in a way they want, as it was happening for decades and decades and decades prior, right? And one of the media outlets, including Western ones, by the way, that are reporting about this idea that is beginning to circulate among coalition of willing members is a political American media outlet. So I don't know if it's true or not, but I can see a possibility or reasoning why would London initiate creation of alternative military alliance beyond NATO, because in NATO, you know, it's the US is a major player, right? And US can veto literally anything if they want to. While coalition of willing is a different stuff, and if they will transform this this group into actual military alliance, then Washington will have no say there directly, at least, or whatsoever. And I don't think they're going to invite US, right? So also something interesting in terms of developments, how processes are developing in Europe and in between European and American ruling class. This information, if true, by the way, also once again indicates that NATO is quite effectively not just a paper tiger, but is dead, right? It's only formalities left to actually make it official. Also, I mentioned the WOS, isn't it? And there are going to be plenty of delegations from all over the world there to participate in the World Economic Forum. I don't think we're going to have some significant delegation from Russia, official delegation from Russia. But reports are that aide of Russian President Kirill Dmitriev will be there and will have a meeting with Witkov and Kushner. Witkov is, of course, a special envoy of U.S. President, and Kushner is son-in-law. And recent reports suggest that he also gets a sort of a position of aide of U.S. President or something. In any case, interesting news is interesting. Maybe during the recent talks in U.S. between the Kiev regime and the U.S., some agreements have been reached. I have doubts about it, but maybe some agreements have been reached, and Dmitriev will be informed about it. But because meeting is taking place in Davos, that suggests to me that there was not really much progress during those talks between American side and the representatives of Kiev regime or Ukrainian delegation led by Arahami, according to reports. And that's why Witkov and Kushner are not coming to Moscow. Because if there was any like breakthrough or something, probably they would come to Moscow and seek a meeting with the Russian president, as it happened quite a few times before. In any ways, also something to keep in mind and pay some attention to. Maybe today or tomorrow we will receive some more information about this stuff. And well, Trump. Trump is not shying away to attack its U.S. European allies, right? And not just because of the Greenland, but even though he had a phone conversation with Stammer, according to reports, yesterday, I believe, he went after UK too. And criticized UK, basically called UK leadership stupid, right? Due to intention of London to transfer Diego Garcia to its owners, basically, right? Diego Garcia is, of course, an island in Indian Ocean, right, which is transformed into a military base for British militaries and American militaries, let's say. So, a strategically important base for US especially. And let's go through some statements that Trump made in regards to this topic. So shockingly, he is writing on his Truth Social, "Our brilliant," and brilliant is in quotes. So this is already sort of an assault or insult even to UK, isn't it? Because he is not really meaning that this ally is brilliant. So shockingly, our brilliant NATO ally, United Kingdom, is currently planning to give away the island of Diego Garcia, the site of a vital US military base, to Mauritius. And Mauritius, by the way, are, owners. It's belong to them, right? And should be theirs. But anyways, and to do so for no reason whatsoever, according to Trump. There is no doubt that China and Russia have noticed this act of total weakness. These are international powers who only recognize strength, which is why the United States of America, under my leadership, is now, after only 1 year, respected like never before. Well, someone has to tell him, man. Someone has to tell him. The UK giving away extremely important lender is an act of great stupidity. He is directly insulting, by the way, right? British elites. I mean, what other interpretation you can give to this statement of his? So UK giving away extremely important land is an act of great stupidity. And there is another in a very longer line of national security reasons why Greenland has to be acquired. Denmark and its European allies have to do the right thing. Thank for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. I mean, he bring Greenland too in this even in this topic. Where is Greenland and where is Diego Garcia? But yes, he is extremely hostile and disrespectful towards British leadership. I mean, this is not the way allies should communicate for sure. Not publicly, at least, right? If they have any differences behind closed doors, they can talk this through. But to insult leadership of your main ally in Europe this way, that's quite something, isn't it? And also, of course, Trump had to mention Russia and China, and maybe he will go ahead in next several days and say, you know what, maybe UK is giving up this island, but we are not giving up nothing. This is our historical land. Maybe he will say something like that. That this island is needed to US for its security and blah blah blah. Same narratives that was used there and still is used in regards to Greenland. But yet again, nowadays, by the way, seems like Western ruling class is able to justify literally anything they want with just mentioning of Russia and China. They demonize us so much so that if they want to keep voices of opposition down, all they have to do is just mention Russia and China. And if anyone dares to say something about it, then, usual stuff that comes from these Western elites is, I mean, are you a Russian asset? Are you on Russian payroll? Are you Chinese asset? Why you are opposing me here? You are working for Russians and Chinese, clearly, man. Otherwise, you would not be against my whatever ideas, man. And if you are against, then you are enemy. You are working for Russians and Chinese and aliens from Andromeda Galaxy. That's the level of degeneration of the Western political culture. That's where they are, man. And it's sad for sure, and it's extremely dangerous. Probably majority of our community will agree with this. I mean, this is stupidity on actual stupidity on some next level. RIA Novosti is also reporting that, as I mentioned earlier, by the way, European countries are trying to oppose Trump, sort of, right? And according to Financial Times, they are considering imposing tariffs on US for $93 billion worth of goods. I don't think they will go ahead with this threat, but that's what they are threatening. Also, Europeans are threatening to shut down bases, military bases that US is using, and force Americans to flee. Germany also considering increase price tag for military bases that US is using on the German territory. Some were even suggesting that Germany might demand their bases to be shut down, including Ramstein. I think this is all just talk. I really think all this tough talk from European countries is empty words. Share your opinion, dear friends. What you think? Will Berlin or Paris or London will actually go ahead and sanction the US or tariff US and demand their bases to be shut down and that kind of stuff? I doubt they will dare to do so. And I saw a video, by the way, this morning. Trump, before leaving US for Davos, I guess, he was somewhere in the airport. He was asked about strong statements from French leadership, and Trump didn't hesitate to say, you know what, I will impose 200% tariffs on everything French, and then we will see. And he has a point, man. US can use its leverage because it has leverage. European countries have no leverage over US. I mean, almost nothing. They will demand US bases to be shut down in Europe. I mean, Americans probably will be happy to just go leave the Europe, man, right? Because they spend how many billions? I mean, dozens of billions of dollars just to for maintenance of these bases on in Europe, and I'm not quite sure they really need that, right? So Europe has no leverage over the US in any way, shape, or form. And reports are also coming in that allegedly European NATO member states are cutting intelligence sharing with the US. And if true, then, well, okay, maybe US will cut intelligence sharing with the European NATO members too. And that will be good news. I think good news for Russia, because all these long-range attacks on Russian Federation conducted by NATO and NATO proxy regime is usually based on intelligence of US satellite intelligence, satellite navigation, flight path, everything mostly is based on US information, US intelligence, right? So if things go that way, if sites will actually stop sharing information, well, that would be good, by the way, for sure, right? And before I continue, dear friends, let me just check technical side of things, and remind you, if I may, that well, if you appreciate these daily news updates from Moscow, from Russian pro-Russian standpoint that I am providing, please consider to support my work. Links to my PayPal and Boosty platforms are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And also, please consider to join our community on Patreon, become a subscriber on my Patreon page or page on Boosty will be great support too. For the last 2 years, I was dreaming about doubling our community on Patreon, but unfortunately, numbers are shrinking. At some point, our community was on Patreon 150. Now it's 130, right? About which is unfortunate, man. Which is unfortunate, but yeah, that's the reality. So if you appreciate my work, please consider to subscribe to my Patreon, where I have extra content on regular basis. By the way, almost every other day, right? Second updates included, and if for whatever reason you hate Patreon platform, there is alternative Boosty. For example, you can use Boosty not just for donations or tips, but also I have a page. I'm publishing videos there, so also same videos that I have on same content that I have on Patreon is published on Boosty too. So you can subscribe to that page if you want. Links are under this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And of course, during the live streams, you can use this super chat feature. On Rumble, I'm streaming on both platforms. Well, unfortunately, this Rumble super chat did not really become popular, with the exception of few members of our community. Very rarely anybody is donating through super chat on Rumble or Enter. And unfortunately, I struggle big time to develop this Rumble channel, by the way. I guess shadow ban on Rumble is even tougher than on YouTube, which is crazy, right? But not really surprising, because some say John Banjan or Don Banjan or whatever his freaking name is, a former deputy of Patel, director of the FBI, is one of the biggest stakeholders in Rumble, and that will explain why Rumble is operating this way, right? Okay. Anyways, by the way, let's continue with some other news Donald Trump, again, before leaving for Davos, make it clear while talking to journalists that Greenland is essential, absolutely essential for U.S. and they have to have it because Denmark cannot protect it. From whom Denmark gonna protect Greenland? You have a right guess from unexisting or non-existing Russian threat and Chinese threat and threat from aliens from Andromeda Galaxy, right? We all know that. Denmark, meanwhile, is not backing down, at least for now, right? And they are sending more troops. And you can see on your screen right now, deployment of yet another small unit to Greenland. What they gonna do there, man? That's the question. If Trump ordered U.S. militaries to establish full control, to neutralize local administrations, right, to make it clear that this island belongs now to U.S., what Danish troops gonna do? They're gonna open fire on American soldiers? I mean, really? I can imagine American soldiers opening fire on Danish soldiers. I don't think U.S. militaries actually care who are they killing. They are every now and then deployed on U.S. territory itself and committing all sorts of heinous crimes. And I don't think they will struggle to kill everybody, literally everybody on that island. All the residents, not just Danish militaries, but all the residents, by the way, all 55,000 of them, right? Americans have done much more terrible crimes. I mean, that would be terrible as hell, right? But American militaries have killed tens of millions of people, by the way, since the existence of the US, right? As a state. So Americans can open fire on Danish troops, but will Danish troops actually dare to open fire on Americans? I don't know. I doubt that. Danes love to talk tough, but and they used to be, mini empire, isn't it? Many people are not maybe don't know that Denmark used to be a freaking empire, right? And Denmark used to have absolutely genocidal maniacs in their leadership that actually committed genocide, right? And quite a number of countries in Europe gained independence from Denmark relatively recently, in historical terms, right? So this is also something to keep in mind that they used to be powerhouse somewhat, and they are used to tough talk, but against Americans, yeah, it's not gonna work, man. It's not gonna work. But we will find out. We will find out. RT is also reporting in many other media outlets that Trump plans to sign this board of peace, so-called board of peace for Gaza during his visit in Davos on sidelines of World Economical Forum. I mean, he could not find the worst place, by the way, to do this. If already world community mainly was skeptical about Trump's plans in regards to Gaza, well, he's intending to sign this so-called board of peace on sidelines of WEF, absolutely hated institution. That's quite telling. That's quite telling, isn't it? And Trump continues to send invitations to join this board to everybody, I guess, to dozens of countries at least. Russian president was also offered a seat on Trump's this so-called peace council to be on the board of this something that Trump is creating and his people, and hopefully Moscow will say no. Russia will try to provide assistance to Palestinian people in some other ways, as Russia always was trying to stand with Palestinian people in their rightful struggle for independence and for safety and protection. But I don't think Russia needs to be on the board of this freak show, by the way, that Trump is pushing now. Nothing to be said about $1 billion that Trump is demanding from board members. I mean, what the hell? If Russia wants to provide financial assistance to Palestinians, Russia will do it its way, Russian way, right? We don't need no US mediations in that. So I don't know, of course, what her decision will be on part of Putin. He might actually agree, just in order to keep like further advance chances of some deal being reached between Moscow and Washington, right? But I don't think anybody in Moscow actually believes that Trump's initiatives in regards to Palestine will work positively for the Palestinian people. I think so. Also, dear friends, yesterday I mentioned about escalation in Syria. Damascus regime is on offensive on the eastern and the northern parts of Syria, and their main target is the Kurdish forces there. And the Kurdish forces are retreating. They are unable to stand the ground in many directions, right? And there is mass killings, by the way, and there is a fear now that in areas that will be occupied by Damascus forces, they might commit mass killings of the ethnic Kurds, maybe to influence the situation in some ways. Trump had a phone conversation with the head of Damascus regime, al-Shara. Details are not known, obviously, but well, Kurdish people, by the way, are feeling betrayed. There is a massive demonstrations in northern Syria, also in Iraqi Kurdistan, I believe, and people are demanding some actions from U.S. And other allies that they were relying on for decades in many cases, right? But seems like U.S. has no intention to get involved there. Neither other NATO member states, and well, Kurdish forces will have to fight this fight on their own against Damascus. Let's see what will happen there. But already videos are circulating from certain areas where Damascus regime established control, that they are releasing ISIS terrorists that were held in prison by Kurdish troops, right? So you understand what that means. These ISIS terrorists, well, you know, we all know what they are capable of, what kind of atrocities they have already committed and might commit in the future. And one of the reasons why US and other NATO member states are staying away, well, might be intention or intent to take these ISIS terrorists from the jails. I guess their number is in thousands. To take these ISIS terrorists and then use them in some other places. Because let's remember, ISIS and Al Qaeda is a creation of CIA, Mossad, and MI6, right? It's their creation, and they still are largely in charge of these terrorist organizations. US Secret Services, Israeli Secret Services, British Secret Services. Question is, where they gonna use these terrorists from Syria? Where they're gonna deploy them? Against Iran? Could be the case. Iranian leadership already stated that their country was infiltrated by ISIS terrorists, and this was done with the direct involvement of Israeli Mossad and their NATO secret services of the NATO countries, US, UK, and so on. And I believe that this is true because these terrorists that Western propaganda loves to call peaceful protesters, they burned down more than 50 mosques in Iran in past days. And this is exactly what ISIS terrorists were doing. They have no respect whatsoever towards Shiite Muslims, and they have no respect even towards their Sunni Muslims that are not radicalized. Because one should keep in mind that ISIS and Al Qaeda terrorists are Wahhabi. It's a sect, let's say, in Sunni Islam, right? This Wahhabism or Salafism, and that's what they are. So, well, might be the case that these terrorists, numerous number of terrorists that were freed by Damascus forces from prisons that were controlled by Kurdish troops, Kurdish militias, they're gonna end up somewhere in Iran, maybe. Who knows, man? Who knows? But this is definitely something that needs attention. And hostilities continue. Hostilities continue. Damascus forces are advancing, and they're advancing quite rapidly. RIA Novosti is reporting that Moldova has begun the process of leaving their CIC. CIC is, of course, Commonwealth of Independent States that was created after collapse of Soviet Union by former Soviet republics. And well, report is definitely not a surprise or not surprising, not for me, not for many people. I guess Moldova is led now by Western proxy regime of under their control of Sandu, Maya Sandu, and Sandu already said openly, by the way, on numerous occasions that she wants Moldova to join Romania. A few days ago, she reiterated herself during the televised interview that she wants Moldova to join Romania. And by the way, you know what? I know, according to reports that I have seen from the sources that I find to be trustworthy, I know that there is a significant portion of the society in Moldova that considers themselves to be Romanians. And I think they have every right to join the Romania if they want to. They can hold the referendums and decide, right, that they want to join Romania. But I also know that there is another half of the society that wants nothing to do with Romania. They consider themselves to be part of Russian world and to be separate entity whatsoever. In case of Gagauzia, for example, Gagauz people, they don't want to be part of Romania. They don't see themselves to be Romanians. They are Gagauz people. These are Turkic-speaking people. Only Turkic-speaking people that are Christians in mass, right? Majority Christian, Turkic-speaking ethnicity, Gagauz people, right? They have autonomy in Moldova, and I'm quite sure Gagauz people, and there are also Moldavians that see themselves to be part of Russian world, will seek closer ties with Moscow. And eventually, you will understand what is going to happen with Moldova, isn't it? And when I say that globalists already are seeking or testing the ground to open second front against Russia in different areas, one of the directions where they might try to do so is definitely Moldova. And let me show you on the map, by the way, for better understanding of where Moldova is. This is Moldova, in between Romania and Ukraine, right? I can make map a little bigger. So yeah, that's Moldova here, by the way. It used to be part of Romania, right? It used to be a part of Romania, but Stalin, after the Second World War, took this territory, created a Moldova, as a separate republic, and Stalin took land from Romania and give it to Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. Also, a lot of land actually, as he did in regards to Transcarpathia that was taken from Czechoslovakia. Although Czechoslovakia get its hands on Transcarpathia after the First World War, because before that it used to be part of Romania. Very complex story there, right? And also, of course, Stalin took a massive chunk of eastern Poland and give it to Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. And now this eastern part, former eastern part of Poland, is a western part of Ukraine, right? That Poland most likely will make claim on in relatively near future. And right now, dear friends, Anna dropped a screenshot. There was a super chatter on Rumble from. Let me copy this from Jefferson Monument. Thank you very much, Jefferson, for super chat, and I will react on your super chatter after the news segment in couple of minutes. Thank you very much for your super chat there on Rumble. And so yes, man, Moldova is one of their areas where we should expect a significant escalation. I myself have said like numerous times before that Moldova is destined for a full-scale disintegration, because that's exactly what is going to happen to this former Soviet republic. There is no other ways, by the way. Full-scale disintegration is what is waiting for Moldova. Also interesting reports are coming in nowadays that from Europe, by the way, that European elites are beginning to fear their growing dependence on American gas. Politico is one of the sources that are reporting about this. Almost to 50% of all of Europe's natural gas poised to be imported from the US by this decade's end. Before end of this decade, by the way, 50%, I guess 50+% of all the gas that Europe will import will come from US LNG, right? Which is, very expensive compared to Russian pipeline gas. And also, if you keep in mind the relationships between American elites and European elites, this dependence, by the way, is not really something that will give the European ruling class any leverage over the US, isn't it? It's the other way around. US is only increasing its leverage over the Europe. And by the way, let's be real here. US was quite openly pushing for this, right? US destroyed Nord Stream pipelines. US forced European countries to basically destroy economical relationships with Russia almost completely, right? Including in energy sector. This, of course, opened the door for American energy companies to try to sell their freaking very expensive oil and LNG to Europeans under their like twice of price at least than Russian pipeline gas, make dozens of billions of dollars, and more, by the way, more actually, right? And yeah, fear is justifiable, I guess, on part of European ruling class, because they, even though they are extremely stupid, they're beginning to realize that they're all being played by Americans. They all being played, while globalists and globalist controlled regimes in Europe were thinking that, well, it's they are in charge, right? They are controlling not just Europe, but they are controlling America too. They have a lot of allies there, a lot of assets in intelligence community, in deep state. Democrats are their freaking like pocket beaches, right? And stuff like that. And it turned out that, you know what? No, man, it was American ruling class that played you all, European elites. And well, you are fully dependent on US now. And what you gonna do? What you gonna do? What European elites gonna do? to rebuild relationships with Russia. Well, it will take decades at least, right? To regain any level of trust. And they don't really have any other option, really. They are isolated. Europe is just isolated. Do it through criminal policies, do it through anti-European policies of European elites. And they're going to face consequences now. It's fear on their part might be justified because, they're going to be fully dependent on US in terms of energy security. And they're going to pay more and more, right? Until they would not be able to pay any longer. But yet again, they bring it on themselves. They bring it on themselves, man. And Russia was warning about it. No one can say that this is surprise and they did not know. No, they knew. Moscow was saying what is going on since the beginning, that they've been played, right? But no one listened. Okay, they will learn hard way now. That they will learn hard way how poor of a decision is to ignore Moscow and to be enemy of Russia. And European elites choose to be enemies of Russia, by the way, right? It's their choice. They chose to be enemy of Russia. We did not wanted this conflict. We did not seek this conflict, by the way. We have no hate towards Europe. We have no hate towards European societies, by the way. We have no hate towards American societies or the hostility. This proxy war was provoked by the Western ruling class, right? And the Western ruling class chose to position themselves and their countries that they controlled as enemies of Russia. And they're going to pay consequences for that now and forever. Meanwhile, none of us going to be surprised. None of you going to be surprised to hear that gold reaches a new record high, $400 and $700, by the way, for troy ounce. And it's very little left before 5,000. And how many years ago I have said that gold will reach $4,000 and then gold will reach $5,000. Years ago, right? And that's exactly what is happening. And I'm quite sure it's a matter of a year or two, like near future, by the way, and gold will reach 7,000 like nothing. It's inevitable, absolutely inevitable, I think. Right? Maybe at some point we will see gold being priced, ounce of gold being priced even 10 freaking thousand, man. It's a possibility, and faster the dollarization process will go, faster demand on alternative increaser, including demand on commodities, among which, of course, gold plays an important role. Gold, silver, other commodities, by the way. So yes, that's something interesting, although not really that surprising no more, right? That gold is reaching new and new records. And also, dear friends, I want to share with you this report, which I think is important, especially for those of us that are weather sensitive, somewhat. So there was a tremendous coronal mass ejection on the sun, as far as I can tell. And today, in about few hours' time, by the way, colossal magnetic storm gonna start on Earth. Our planet will go through this wave of charged particles from the sun, and I myself gonna just to stay on safe side. After this live stream, I'm gonna take some medicine, by the way, to keep my blood pressure in check, right? And you do what you find necessary if you are weather sensitive, or if you time to time experiencing some issues with the blood pressure. Just stay on safe side, control the pressure. I believe there is a direct correlation, by the way, between sun activity, magnetic storms, and blood pressure. Uh, this was even reported some time ago here in former Soviet area, by the way, or even people were even informed by media that they're going to be big magnetic storm, powerful magnetic storm, and their weather sensitive people should take care of themselves, right? Nowadays, these kind of warnings are no longer placed in reports, which is bad, by the way, right? Which is bad. So yes, just something to keep in mind, by the way. In a few hours' time, some massive magnetic storm will start. Report itself says following the strongest solar flare of the new year, magnetic storm will, with a moderate geomagnetic activity index, has begun on Earth. Already that even begun, according to solar astronomy laboratory of the Space Research Institute of the Russian Academy of Science. The first flare of 2026 occurred yesterday with a magnitude rate of X195. The laboratory reported that the ejection plasma will reach Earth at noon Moscow time on January 20th. So yes, I mean, right now, middle of the day, this magnetic storm will reach its peak, I guess, and could trigger magnetic storm up to G4. And I believe this is the highest level of magnetic storm, G4. Furthermore, on Monday afternoon, the Solar Astronomy Laboratory published graphs of the geomagnetic activity and solar wind speed, showing that these parameters were declining. Okay, this is good. Scientists compared the situation in near Earth space to the calm before a storm. So, okay, by the way, I mean, something just to keep in mind, by the way. And that's it. That's it for now. Hopefully, you did like the new segment, dear friends. And let me highlight. Let me highlight super chat now. It will take a second, dear friends. So this is a super chat from Rumble. Once again, thank you very much, Jefferson Moment, for super chat on Rumble and $10 donation. If Russia, and this is comment from Jefferson, if Russia reaches the Hungarian border, would the BRICS membership be offered to Hungary, Slovakia, and Serbia? For sure. For sure. I mean, geography in Western Ukraine is such that even in case of full-scale disintegration of Ukraine, when Russian troops are reaching borders of the Western Ukraine and Western Ukraine itself is divided or reclaimed by Romania, Hungary, and Poland, well, geography of that Western Ukraine is such that Transcarpathia, once it will join Hungary, will not be on a border with Russian controlled territory, anyways, right? Hungary will stay isolated from Russia. That's the geography, right? If Hungary will make her claim on some additional territory to have a link with Russia, that changes the things, right? But just based on Transcarpathia, Hungary would not be on the Russian border. Once all these liberated territories of Russia, historical Russia, will join Russian Federation officially. So this is something that Budapest have to sort it out, right? Maybe they will have talks with Romania, Poland, to basically have a corridor, land bridge, right, to the area that is controlled by Russia. If that will happen, I'm quite sure Hungary, Slovakia, and Serbia will be more than welcome to join BRICS, and not just these three countries, by the way. But I think people in Chernogorия, or Montenegro, as it's called, also people in Montenegro might reconsider their stance, and after realizing that Western ruling class is our enemy, maybe they will also take some steps to establish a government of decent people that they don't have yet, right? But they need, and that government of decent people, based on government of from decent people, right, will definitely seek cooperation with Serbia and also with the BRICS. And this is important because Montenegro, by the way, has access to sea. And simultaneously, some work might be done in terms of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Republika Srpska eventually will gain independence. I think either Bosnia and Herzegovina has to gain full independence from Western ruling class and join rest of the world, or Bosnia and Herzegovina will undergo full-scale disintegration. Republika Srpska will go on its separate way, probably will join Serbia. I wish that's what is going to happen. Croatians will go their separate way and join Croatia, and Bosnians will stay on their own, right? Either way, through Republika Srpska, there will be additional access to the Black Sea. Sorry, to the Adriatic. It's Adriatic, isn't it? What a Black Sea, man! What am I talking about? Let's go through map here. If my memory is not playing me, I believe Republika Srpska is also bordering, by the way. Also has a coastline. So this is Chernogorия, right? That has a coastal line. So Chernogorия has to be part of. And this is Bosnia and Herzegovina. And let's check, by the way. You see, Bosnia has, man, yes. You see, little access to sea. Yeah, I remember correctly. Little access to sea here, correct? And by the way, I also think there is a probability that Croatia will join this group of countries too, to link itself with the BRICS. So there is tremendous potential there, right? Tremendous potential. And once Balkans are part of it, I'm quite sure, part of this world unity, I'm quite sure Italy and Greece, by the way, will have also a big incentive to try at least, right, and gain independence from globalists. Maybe they will succeed, and they can also join this growing community of sovereign states, right? It's a possibility for sure. So after Central and Europe and the Balkans, Southern Europe might also move towards the BRICS, by the way, but they have to gain independence from globalists, of course. So that's how I see, right? That's how I see. So yet again, your question was about Hungary, and I think Hungary has to sort it out. I mean, topic of territories. When Western Ukraine will be reclaimed by Poland, Romania, and Hungary, they have to sort between each other uh, these territorial issues. And if Hungary wants to be on a border with Russia, I remember, some time ago, Orban, Prime Minister of Hungary, said that he don't want to border Russia, and I think he's regretting this statement now. I think he is realizing that bordering Russia is a blessing. Actually, it's not a threat, by the way. It's a blessing, right? In many ways, if you are not provoking Russia, if you are not allowing yourself, your country, to be used as a proxy against Russia, you're gonna do just fine, man. You're gonna do great while cooperating with Russia. And so, yes, let the Poles, Hungarians, and Romanians sort this stuff out. You see on this map, even, by the way, it's visible. That's the Transcarpathia, right? And Romania will claim all this territory, and Poland will claim northern part, right? And Hungary would not be on a border with Russia, would not reach Russia in this case. They have to sort it out with their neighbors. Topic of territories, or they have to just go ahead and just make a claim, right? Because Ukraine is undergoing full-scale disintegration, anyways. And there was another super chat, also from Jeffrey. Jefferson's monumental. Let me highlight, dear friends. This another super chat. Hopefully, my answer on first super chat was good enough, informative enough, and let's. Okay, this was. I did react on that, and this is another one. Come on. On this one. Once again, thank you very much, Jefferson Monument, for your super chat, second super chat on Rumble, and $10 donation. And comment from Jefferson is, if Russia and China can get Montenegro on board, that changes everything. Yes, I mean, you know, you are talking about coastline, of course. It is important. It is important, and I think there is a probability that Montenegro will be on a border, because society in Montenegro is divided, isn't it? Part is brainwashed big time, and it's all about EU and the NATO, and being part of this globalist controlled world, and another part still to nowadays are depressed that they have not as good relationships as they should with their brothers in Serbia, right? And also with Russia, by the way. Others are, yet again, quite depressed that they are losing the contact with their brothers, their brotherly nations, right? And that's why I think work is need to be done, and there is a potential that society in Montenegro will see their future, right, in and their own strategical interests, not by being controlled by globalists, but by building the relationships with their immediate neighbors and with BRICS. And Montenegro has access to sea, right? That's necessary, actually, I think. Bosnia also has a little bit access, but I believe that access is controlled. They have access to their water, but then they have to go through Croatian waters, right, to reach the open sea, and therefore Croatia needs to be part of this movement also, and there is a potential for that. There is clearly potential for that. So thank you very much for interesting comments, interesting topic that you highlighted, and for your donation. Thank you very much, Jefferson Monument. I appreciate your support. And dear friends, this is it. This is it for now. There was no questions or the comments through other support platforms. If you enjoy my work, if you appreciate my work, please consider to support. By the way, all the links to my PayPal, Boosty, Patreon are on this video description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a wonderful day and take care. Bye.